Welcome back to Kindness in Real Life. We step into a chilling New Year's Eve where a 10-year-old girl's cries pierce the silence of a frozen neighborhood, ignored by all until a sleek black SUV stops and a millionaire named Ethan Whittaker steps out with one word: enough. From that moment, a life on the edge of despair begins to transform. Why did he stop? What drove him to challenge the darkness? Stay with us to find out. And if you're moved by tales that spark light in the coldest nights, join our Kindness in Real Life family as we unravel this unforgettable story. The wind howled through Cedar Hill, rattling the old roof tiles and carrying the distant pop of New Year's Eve fireworks. The neighborhood lay still, its peeling paint and sagging porches cloaked in a heavy silence, as if the joy of the holiday had bypassed this forgotten corner of town. House. No 17 stood at the end of the street, its faded yellow light spilling onto a cracked porch. Inside, a scream pierced the quiet, followed by the sharp crack of a door being kicked open. Ellie Garner, a slight 10-year-old with pale skin and dark tangled hair, stumbled onto the porch, dragged by her stepfather Travis. Her woolen sweater hung loose, one sleeve torn, and her worn sneaker soles so thin they barely shielded her feet. Scraped against the cold brick, Travis's hand clamped her wrist, his voice a snarl. "You little piece of garbage! I told you not to touch that cabinet!" Ellie's body lurched with each yank. Her bare ankles bruised her hazel eyes wide with fear. "Let me go," she whispered, her voice a fragile thread lost in the wind. No one answered. Across the street, a curtain twitched, a neighbor's eyes glinting briefly before vanishing. Doors stayed shut. Windows. Dark. Ellie bit her lip, blood welling where her teeth broke the skin. She hadn't meant to cause trouble. She'd only wanted to find her father's memory box, a small wooden keepsake hidden under a drawer filled with letters he'd left before cancer took him 2 years ago. "When you miss me, read these," he'd said. But Travis, who'd married her mother Nancy a year later, treated the box like it was his to guard. When Ellie touched it, he'd exploded screaming, as if she'd stolen his soul. Nancy stood frozen in the doorway, her thin frame swallowed by a faded cardigan. Her light skin was sallow, her brown eyes hollow. Meeting Ellie's for a fleeting second, pleading terrified before dropping to the ground. She didn't move, didn't speak, her hand gripping the doorframe until her knuckles whitened. Travis whirled on her eyes, blazing. "What are you standing there for? Want to join this brat on the street?" Nancy flinched, stepping back, her shadow trembling in the dim light like a ghost of the mother she'd once been. Ellie fell hard, her cheek scraping the brick, blood trickling from her split lip. The physical pain was sharp, but the silence of the neighborhood cut deeper. No one cared. She clutched her arms, shivering, the memory box's weight heavy in her mind. Travis loomed over her, his voice a low growl. "Ungrateful! I feed you, clothe. And you dig through my house like a thief." Then headlights sliced through the darkness. A sleek black SUV screeched to a halt, its engine purring like a tamed beast. The door opened and a man stepped out, his charcoal gray coat billowing in the wind, Italian leather shoes gleaming under the streetlight. Ethan Whittaker, a millionaire and head of Whittaker Investments, stood tall at 6'1", his salt and pepper hair neatly trimmed, his tanned face stern. At 45, his gray eyes held a quiet intensity cutting through the scene like a blade. He raised his phone, the camera's red light blinking. "Enough," he said, his voice deep, not loud, but cold as steel. Travis froze, squinting at the stranger. "Who are you? This is none of your business." "Get lost." Ethan didn't flinch. "I'm Ethan Whittaker." "If you don't know my name, you will. I'm recording, and my lawyers love cases like this." His words landed like a hammer, each syllable deliberate. Travis's grip on Ellie loosened her wrist, slipping free as he stepped back, his bravado faltering. "You think you're a hero?" he spat, but his voice wavered. Ethan ignored him, crouching to Ellie's level, his coat brushing the ground. "Are you all right?" he asked, his tone softening, eyes searching her bruised face. Ellie nodded, clutching her torn sweater, her gaze locked on this man who'd stopped when no one else had. "I wasn't stealing," she whispered. "I just wanted my dad's letters." Ethan's jaw tightened, his glance flicking to the wooden box she'd dropped, now lying in the dirt. He stood facing Travis again. "You'll explain that to the police?" Travis cursed, his eyes darting to the drawn curtains around them. He knew the neighborhood was watching. now witnesses stirred by Ethan's presence. Muttering, he stormed back into the house, slamming the door. The lights inside went out as if he could hide from what had just happened. Ethan turned to Ellie, opening the SUV's passenger door. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice gentle but firm. "Ellie," she said, clutching the box she'd retrieved, her hands trembling. "He's not my real dad. My dad's gone." The wind carried the faint scent of fireworks, but there was no joy here, only a girl caught in a gray world. Ethan studied her torn shoes, the soles flapping open, revealing threadbare socks. "Get in," he said, not a command, but an offer. "You're safe now." Ellie hesitated, her hazel eyes searching his. They weren't kind eyes, not in the soft, warm way she'd imagined a savior might have. They were tired, sharp, the eyes of someone who'd seen too much wrong and refused to look away. She climbed into the car, the leather seat warm against her shivering frame, the box pressed to her chest. Ethan closed the door and drove the neighborhood, fading into darkness behind them. The road to Ethan's mansion was lined with silent trees, their branches ghostly in the headlights. The iron gate swung open, revealing a white-painted estate, grand but cold, its windows dark. Ethan parked his silence steady, not pressing her to speak. Ellie followed him inside, still clutching the box and a frayed brown teddy bear, Pickle, a gift from her dad for her 7th birthday, its button eye loose. The foyer's polished wood gleamed under soft yellow light, the living room vast with bookshelves and a fireplace, but empty, like a house waiting for life. Ethan led her to a small room off the staircase, once a children's bedroom. A single bed sat neatly made, pajamas folded on it, old clothes of his daughter Eleanor, he said. "Take a bath. Bathroom's on the left. Hot water soap. Use what you need." His voice was even practical. Ellie nodded, hugging Pickle tighter. "Can I bring him?" she asked. Lifting the bear, Ethan's face softened, just a fraction. Of course the bathroom steamed, the mirror fogging as hot water poured. Ellie stood frozen, unused to such warmth, to not rushing or hiding. She sank into the tub, Pickle wrapped in a towel beside her, and let the water wash away the dirt, the blood, the fear that had hardened inside her. For the first time in months, she breathed without looking over her shoulder. When she emerged, hair damp in oversized pajamas, Ethan was in the kitchen. The smell of fried onions and simmering broth filled the air, a warmth that felt like a memory of home. He didn't look at her, just stirred a pot. "Soup's a survival skill," he said. "Warms the stomach, easy to swallow, heals what's broken." Ellie stood at the door, hesitant, then sat at the table, her feet dangling, a bowl of chicken soup, carrots, potatoes, coriander steamed before her. She ate slowly, the spoon's clink, the only sound each bite grounding her in this strange, safe place. Ethan sat across, watching her quietly. "Why do you hug that bear so tight?" he asked, his tone curious, not prying. Ellie's fingers traced Pickle's frayed ear. "He's Pickle. Dad gave him to me when I was 7. Travis said he'd throw him away if I wasn't good." Ethan's eyes darkened, a flash of anger quickly buried. He leaned back, his silence an invitation, not a demand. Ellie ate in peace, the bowl soon empty. She looked at Ethan, a question forming. "Why'd you stop?" "You didn't have to." He met her gaze, his voice low. "Because I've seen enough kids hurt by silence. I wasn't going to be another one who looked away." His words hung heavy, and Ellie sensed a story behind them, one he wasn't ready to tell. She nodded, clutching Pickle, the night's chill fading in the kitchen's warmth. But outside, the wind still howled, and somewhere, Travis's rage simmered. Ethan had lit a spark, but sparks could start fires or draw shadows closer. What drove Ethan to risk everything for a stranger's child, and what secrets from his past fueled his resolve? If this story's gripping your heart, hit that like button to join us as we uncover the truth. You won't want to miss what's next. The morning sun crept through the heavy curtains of Ethan Whittaker's mansion, casting pale streaks across the polished wood floor. Ellie Garner sat at the kitchen table, her small hands wrapped around a mug of cocoa, steam curling upward. The oversized pajamas hung loose on her thin frame, her dark hair still damp from last night's bath. Pickle, her frayed teddy bear, rested against her elbow, one button eye glinting in the light. The warmth of the kitchen, scented with fresh toast and warm milk, felt like a dream. One Ellie wasn't sure she could trust. At 10, she'd learned safety could vanish as quickly as it came. Ethan stood at the counter, his frame steady in a crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbows, his salt and pepper hair catching the morning light. His tanned face bore lines of loss, but his gray eyes were sharp, watching Ellie with a quiet care that didn't demand answers. He slid a plate of toast toward her, butter glistening. "Eat," he said, his voice deep, even. "You don't need to ask permission for breakfast here." Ellie nodded, her hazel eyes flickering with hesitation, then took a small bite, the crunch loud in the silent room. Last night's events replayed in her mind, Travis dragging her onto the porch, the neighborhood's cold silence, Ethan's headlights cutting through the dark, his voice. Enough had stopped Travis cold, and now she was here in a house too grand to feel real. She glanced at Ethan, his calm presence both comforting and unsettling. Why had he helped her? What did he want? Adults always wanted something. Travis had taught her that. A sharp knock broke the quiet. Ethan's jaw tightened his hand, pausing on his coffee mug. He crossed to the foyer, opening the door to reveal Sheriff Clara Holt, a sturdy woman of 50 with ruddy skin and graying curls tucked under her cap. Her uniform was crisp, her brown eyes tired but kind. "Morning, Ethan," she said, holding a notepad. "Heard you had a rough night." "Come in," Ethan replied, stepping aside. Clara's boots thudded softly as she entered, her gaze landing on Ellie, who shrank slightly in her chair. "This, the girl?" Clara asked, voice softening. Ethan nodded. "Ellie Garner." Travis Garner's stepdaughter Clara crouched to Ellie's level, her face warm. "Hey, Ellie, I'm Sheriff Holt. You're safe here, okay?" Ellie clutched Pickle, nodding her eyes, darting to Ethan for reassurance. They sat at the table, Clara flipping open her notepad. "I got your message about the video," she said to Ethan. "Sent it to the station." "It's clear as day," Travis, dragging her, yelling. Neighbors confirmed hearing screams before. Some saw her sneaking out at night, hiding from him. Ethan's face hardened. "He's been at this for a while." Then Clara sighed. "Looks like it. Child Protective Services is involved. They'll need to talk to Ellie and her mother, Nancy." Ellie's fingers tightened on Pickle at the mention of her mother. Nancy's silence last night, her refusal to step forward, stung deeper than Travis's blows. Ethan noticed his voice low. "What about Travis? He's still at the house." Clara nodded. "For now. We're building a case, but he's not in custody yet." "Stay sharp, Ethan. He's not the type to back down quietly." After Clara left, Ethan turned to Ellie, his expression unreadable. "You don't have to talk about it, but if you want to..." "I'm here." Ellie stared at her Coco. The surface still. "Why didn't Mom stop him?" she whispered, her voice cracking. Ethan leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Sometimes fear makes people freeze. Doesn't mean she doesn't love you, just means she's lost her way." His words were steady, but Ellie sensed a weight behind them, a story he wasn't telling. The day unfolded quietly. Ethan gave Ellie a tour of the mansion, its vast rooms filled with bookshelves, a grand piano, and a fireplace that warmed the living room. The guest room where she'd slept had a window overlooking a misty garden. "This is yours, as long as you need it," he said. Ellie nodded, clutching Pickle, her bare feet cold on the wood floor. She didn't know how to live in a place like this where every corner gleamed, where no one yelled. By afternoon, a social worker. Ms. Patel arrived, a short woman in her 40s with warm brown skin and a gentle smile. Her navy blazer was neat, her black hair tied back. She sat with Ellie in the living room, Ethan nearby, but giving them space. "Ellie, can you tell me what happened at home?" Ms. Patel asked, her voice soft. Ellie hesitated, then spoke her words, halting Travis. "He got mad a lot. If I did something wrong, he'd yell or grab me. Mom just watched. She never said anything." Ms. Patel nodded, scribbling notes. "You're brave for telling me. We're going to make sure you're safe." When Ms. Patel left, she told Ethan, "We're opening an investigation into Travis and Nancy. Ellie can stay here for now under emergency foster care. You'll need to meet with a caseworker weekly." Ethan agreed, his face calm but resolute. Ellie overheard her heart racing. Stay here with Ethan. It felt too good, too fragile, like a promise that could break. That evening, Ethan cooked again, pasta with tomato sauce, simple but fragrant. Ellie ate at the table, Pickle propped beside her. The silence was comfortable now, less heavy. Ethan watched her, his gray eyes thoughtful. "You remind me of someone," he said suddenly, his voice low. Ellie looked up curious. "Who?" He hesitated, then said, "My daughter Eleanor. She loved books like you, always carried a stuffed animal too." His gaze drifted to the fireplace where a framed photo sat, a brown-haired girl with bright eyes smiling. Ellie's chest tightened. "Where is she now?" she asked softly. Ethan's hand stilled on his fork. "She's gone," he said, his voice rough. "Car accident 4 years ago. She was 9. The words hung heavy, and Ellie didn't push. She understood loss the way it carved out pieces of you. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Ethan nodded, a faint smile breaking through. "It's okay. Talking about her keeps her close." After dinner, they sat by the fireplace, the flames casting shadows on the walls. Ellie held a book Ethan had given her, a worn copy of Matilda. She traced the cover, her fingers lingering on the title. "Dad used to read to me," she said almost to herself, "before he got sick." Ethan leaned back in his armchair. "What was he like?" Ellie's face softened. "Funny. He'd make up stories about a bat who sang opera. He gave me Pickle." She hugged the bear tighter, its frayed ear brushing her cheek. Ethan listened, his silence inviting. Then he stood, pulling a small sewing kit from a drawer. "Pickle's button is loose," he said, sitting beside her. "Let's fix it." Ellie handed him the bear, watching as his steady hands threaded a needle, each stitch precise. "Eleanor had a bear like this," he said, not looking up. "Poppy fell in a ditch once. Took me all night to sew her back." Ellie smiled, a small, real smile. "You're good at this." When he finished, Pickle's button was secure, the thread slightly off color but strong. Ellie hugged the bear, her eyes bright. "Thank you," she said, her voice stronger now. Ethan nodded, his gaze warm but distant, as if seeing someone else in her place. As night fell, Ethan stepped onto the porch, the air sharp with the scent of snow. He checked his phone, a message from Clara. Travis was seen near Cedar Hill. "Stay vigilant," Ethan's jaw clenched, his hand tightening on the railing. He'd stirred a hornet's nest, and Travis wasn't the kind to slink away. Inside, Ellie slept in the guest room, Pickle beside her, the memory box on the nightstand. Ethan had given her safety, but safety was fragile, and he knew it. Back in the living room, he sat by the fire, the photo of Eleanor watching him. He'd failed to save her, but Ellie was here, alive, needing him. He wouldn't look away again, but as the wind rattled the windows, a faint creak sounded outside, a footstep, or just the house settling. Ethan stood, his heart steady but alert, knowing the fight was far from over. What shadows were stirring in Cedar Hill, and could Ethan protect Ellie from the storm Travis was brewing? If this story's got you hooked, hit that subscribe button to follow their journey. You won't believe what's coming next. Snowflakes drifted over Cedar Hill, softening the neighborhood's jagged edges, its sagging porches and peeling paint dusted white. Ethan Whittaker's mansion glowed with quiet warmth, its windows casting golden light into the misty dawn. Ethan stood on the porch, his broad frame wrapped in a charcoal coat, salt and pepper hair tousled by the wind. His tanned skin contrasted the pale morning, his gray eyes sharp, scanning the garden for any trace of Travis. The note from 2 nights ago. "Stay out of my life, Whittaker. She's not yours," burned in his memory, as did the faint scar on his hand from saving Pickle from the fire. He gripped the railing, the cold biting his knuckles, determined to shield the fragile safety he'd built for Ellie. Inside, Ellie, Garner sat cross-legged by the fireplace, a blanket draped over her slight shoulders. Her pale skin glowed in the flickering light, dark hair, neatly braided hazel eyes tracing the pages of Matilda. Pickle, her frayed teddy bear, rested in her lap, its scorched ear stitched with red thread, button eye gleaming. The mansion's warmth, the crackling fire, the scent of cinnamon rolls baking felt like a home she was learning to trust. She clutched a notebook, her small hands scrawling careful letters, each stroke a defiance of the fear Travis had sown. Ethan stepped inside his boots, soft on the polished wood. "Morning," he said, his voice deep, steady, as he set a mug of cocoa beside her miss. "Martha's coming soon." Ellie's lips curved into a small smile, her gaze lifting. "I wrote something," she said, showing him a page. "Pickle likes this house. I do too." Ethan's chest tightened, his gray eyes softening. "That's real good, Ellie," he said, his tone warm. Her trust, fragile as new ice, was a spark he'd guard with everything he had. A sharp knock cut through the quiet. Ethan's hand paused on his coffee mug, but it was Sheriff Clara Holt, her ruddy skin flushed from the cold graying curls peeking from her cap. Her uniform was crisp, brown eyes steady but grim. "Got news," she said, stepping inside, brushing snow from her shoulders. Travis was nabbed last night, drunk outside a Fairhaven bar. He's in custody. Your video and neighbor statements, assault and abuse charges are sticking. Ethan exhaled relief, sharp but cautious. He's locked up for good. Clara's lips pressed thin, till the trial at least. Next month, Ellie's testimony could seal it. Ellie's fingers froze on her book, her gaze darting to Ethan. He knelt beside her, voice low. We'll figure it out together, no rush. She nodded, clutching Pickle, her eyes wary but trusting. Clara left, and Ms. Martha arrived, her white hair glowing under a knit scarf, warm brown skin radiant in the firelight. Her cream sweater and beaded glasses gave her a gentle air, her smile easing Ellie's tension. Let's see that writing, Martha said, sitting beside her. Ellie showed her notebook, then hesitated before writing a new sentence. I am safe. Her pencil trembled, a tear smudging the ink. Martha's hand rested on her shoulder. That's powerful, Ellie. You're powerful. Ellie wiped her eyes, a shaky smile breaking through. Ethan watched from the kitchen, his heart full. Ellie wasn't just learning letters. She was learning to believe she deserved this safety. By noon, Martha had gone, leaving Ellie with a new book and a spark of pride. She said, I'm smart. Ellie told Ethan, her voice soft but sure. He chuckled, handing her a glass of water. She's right. You're a quick learner. Ellie's hazel eyes shone, and for the first time she set Pickle on the table, not clutching him, a small sign she felt secure. That afternoon, a crumpled letter arrived, rain-stained, addressed to Ethan. It was from Nancy. Ellie's mother, her handwriting jagged. I failed her. I was too scared to act. Tell her she was never a burden. Ethan read it in his study, the paper heavy in his hands. Nancy's regret was raw, but he didn't show Ellie, not yet. She needed healing, not more weight. He locked the letter in a drawer, knowing one day she might be ready. As dusk settled, the mansion hummed with quiet life. Ethan and Ellie cooked together, her small hands stirring soup. Her laughter bright when a potato slipped to the floor. They ate by the fire, steam rising from their bowls, the silence comfortable. Ellie spoke, her voice tentative. Did you always live alone? Ethan's spoon paused. Since my daughter Eleanor, he said, his gaze drifting to her photo on the mantel. A brown-haired girl, eyes bright. She loved books like you. Ellie's face softened. What happened? Ethan's voice roughened. Car accident years ago. She was young. Ellie nodded, understanding, lost too well. I'm sorry, she whispered. He managed a faint smile. Talking about her keeps her close. After dinner, Ethan pulled out his sewing kit. Pickle's ear needs a touch-up, he said. Sitting beside her, Ellie handed him the bear, watching his steady hands thread the needle each stitch. Sure, Eleanor had a bear. Poppy, he said, sewed her up once after a mud bath. Ellie grinned, her hazel eyes warm. You're really good at fixing things. Ethan's gray eyes met hers, a quiet promise in them trying to be. A soft thud outside made Ethan stiffen. Ellie's book slipped her breath. Catching stay here, he said, grabbing a flashlight. On the porch, he found a small package, brown paper with Ellie scrawled on it. His pulse spiked, but inside was a knitted scarf, a note tucked beside it. For Ellie, we're sorry we stayed silent. A neighbor's apology stirred by Ethan's stand. He exhaled, tension easing, and brought it inside. Ellie's eyes widened as she wrapped the scarf around Pickle. They know my name, she said, voice awed. Ethan nodded. They're starting to see you that night? Ethan and Ellie stepped onto the porch, the sky clear, stars piercing the dark. Fireworks bloomed in the distance, gold and red, heralding the new year. Ellie stood close, her small hand brushing his. Last year, I was scared, she said, voice soft. Ethan's scarred hand rested on her shoulder. This year, you're not alone. Next year, you'll be stronger. She smiled, hazel eyes bright, fear fading like snow in sunlight. Back by the fire, Ellie wrote in her notebook, I'm not a burden. Ethan read it, his voice thick. You never were, Ellie. She hugged Pickle, the memory box, safe on the table, unopened, but a promise of her father's love. Travis was caged, Nancy's shadow distant. Ethan wasn't her father, but he was her anchor, chosen through courage. One voice can break the silence that traps a child, rewriting their story with hope. Like Ethan, we all have a chance to stand up to be the spark that changes a life. Have you ever spoken out or wished you had? Hit that subscribe button to join our kindness in real life family. Let's keep lighting the way together.